it's Jazzy Horse Girl 101, and I am finally coming at you with a new video. It has been a while, mostly due to the fact that I have just moved, and yeah, just a lot of things have been happening. I had to move my horses and get them settled and, you know, get me settled. You know from this title, because you clicked on it, this is my adult novice Breyerfest photo show results. I've only entered one other show, which was the open show last year, the photo show that they held last year, as like a last minute, like, sure, let's try it. And I had a lot of fun, and then I tried this year, and this year it was a lot more of a learning experience. I got a lot more help, because this show was made to, like, help newer people to the model horse showing world to just kind of get their feet wet and just kind of learn how to show better than I did in the open show, let's put it that way, because here I only placed one foal in 8th place in his class, but it was a class of like 50 horses, so I was really proud of him, and I entered a lot of horses. I entered more horses in the open show than I did in the adult novice, just because there was less classes in the adult novice. So how this video is going to go is each photo of the horse that I entered, like the actual photo I entered, is going to be displayed on the screen. It's also going to have their show name, the class that they entered in, and like if their breed is different, it's going to also have their breed, and it's also going to have their place and the number of horses in their class. FYI, Breyerfest weekend, you can take a look at all of the photos from every person who entered. They're going to display or give access to the Pony Bites site for everyone who's curious in seeing what the photos look like in the shows. So, but this is just how I did personally. If you want to see how everyone else did or look at all their horses, I recommend you look at them Breyerfest weekend. You can only enter one horse per class, and a horse entered in the class could only enter in either halter or performance. You couldn't do both. Alright, so let's talk about placings. I'm just going to go quickly through the horses that didn't place and kind of spend more time on the horses that did. So the first two horses, Athena and Whiskey, they both did not place. They were in class sizes of first one of about 40, second one about 20. Third was the Mawari division. I entered my boy Houdini. He was in class size of 17, and he ended up taking home 8th. So I'm very proud of him. And then the next class was Morgan. I ended up entering Autumn, just as like kind of funsies, because she is not the best quality horse I have, because I used to do videos with her, like, you know, outside, played with her, and, you know, she's still really good on her one show side. As you can see, she looks very nice and pretty in this photo. So she actually ended up taking honorable mention in a class size of 30, which I'm actually very impressed of. Some horses that didn't enter, we have Destiny, Cashmere, Rain, and you can pause if you want to get more information on these guys. We have Simba, Valentine, and Hades. They all didn't place in their respective classes. The next we have class 12, which is Lipizzaner. This girl is Mercy. I entered her as Lipizzaner mare, and I had to photo her from this side because her other side has an Andalusian mark, and I know that that would be a problem if that was on her show side, so I'm like, I'm just gonna take a picture from this side and call her a Lipizzaner. So that's what I did, and she ended up taking 6th out of a size of 20 horses, which I'm very proud of her. Next we have my favorite girl, Echo, but she did not place in her class. I showed her as an American Mustang, and she didn't place, but she is like one of my favorite horses in my collection, so I'm kind of disappointed, but anywho. Then we have Tomahawk, Mosaic, Aurora, Voyager, Fancy. All did not place in their respective sizes of classes. All class sizes were fairly large, so that, you know, makes sense that they was harder to place in those. The next is class 19, which was Carriage Breeds. I ended up entering one of the newer Stalemates Club horses. I named him Sundance. He was in a class size of 42, one of the bigger ones, and he ended up taking home a 2nd place, which I'm like, whoa, because I actually was going to enter a different horse in this class. Then I was like, oh, I could enter him as a Frisian sport horse, and he ended up taking home 2nd, so I'm like, wow. Anyways, moving on. Then we have Karma, who did not place, and then next we have the class of the Appaloosas, which was the largest class in the adult novice show, with 51 horses. So yeah, that was the biggest class in the entire show. And I entered Orion, who ended up taking home an honorable mention. So that's like 11th, 12th range. So I'm actually really happy with that, because out of a class size of 51, getting an honorable mention is a big deal to me. Especially since I'm so new to this. It's just so nice that some of my horses actually did pretty well. And this is by all means not to brag. I'm just communicating what I did and kind of get you guys to be like, hey, let's all enter photo shows because it's fun, and you know, even a person who has like 0 experience can do somewhat good. So yeah, this is by all means not to brag or anything. I'm just, you know, sharing my experience of the photo show. So anyways, moving on. Then we have Oakley, Saga, and Ranger, all did not place in their respective classes. Next we have Rhythm, who was in a class size of 28 and ended up taking home an 8th place. I showed her as a 50% paint, 50% thoroughbred mare. Was the judge. He actually seemed to like that breed for her. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I got comments on some of these horses from the judges. So that was one that they seemed to really like that breed for that model. So if you have this model, show it as a paint thoroughbred and see what happens. So yeah, anyways, moving on. Next we have the Shire class, which I entered Odin, who was in a class size of 29 and took home a 6th place. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. Really nice. Then we have Noble and Gizmo, both did not place. Then we have European Draft, which I entered Hershey in as a dark black forest horse, who was in a class size of 28 and took home a 10th. So yeah, he was like above middle, so you know, I'm happy with that. You know, class size of 28, taking home 10th, pretty good. So yeah, and we have Other Draft, which I entered Atlas, and he was in a class size of 18, and he landed smack dab in the middle at number 9. And the one comment I got from him from the judge is that I showed him as a 75% Clydesdale, 25% paint horse, and she just said that the one thing that wouldn't make sense for the breed is because he's shown in braids, which cross horses usually aren't shown in braids, just usually purebred, you know, Clydesdales and stuff like that. So that was the one comment I got about him and probably why he didn't place higher. Anyways, moving on. Next we have Cleo, which I showed as a Highland pony who did not place. And then we have European Pony, which I actually ended up entering Sunny, and he is my first ever traditional that I've ever gotten, or ever bought myself, and like, you know, actually, he's like what first started my traditional collection is Sunny here. And I actually didn't have anyone for this class. I was like, oh, I'll find some horse to put in this class, you know, and I was like, I got done with everyone else, I got everyone's paperwork done and had them all submitted on the site, and I'm like, well, I have this one class open, and then, you know, I don't really know what to put in here, so I'm like, alright, well, let me just find this guy, and I found Sunny, and I'm like, alright, let's see what he looks like. So I just typed in European ponies, and just, like, kept looking through photos of different breeds, and I'm like, well, Sunny kind of looks like this, and out of a class size of 22, he ended up taking home a 5th, so for a horse that was kind of last minute, I'm like, yeah. Then we have American Pony, which I entered Treasure as a CHINCOTEAGUE mare. Out of a class of 35, she took home a 6th place, so I'm very happy about that. Cappuccino did not place the long-eared class, which I entered my little donkey as miniature donkey Elvis. At a class size of 20, he took home an honorable mention, so he is about halfway through the class. And then we have Chip, Bambi, and Dixie, all did not place in their respective classes. And then next we have the Draft and Pony FOAL division, which I entered Nugget, also as a CHINCOTEAGUE pony, just like his mama, Treasure. And out of a class size of 23, he took home a 5th place. So yeah, I'm really happy about Nugget taking home that 5th place. Next we have Spanish foals, and this is my boy Titus. My boy Titus, he was the one that placed in the open show last year. He got his 8th place at a class size of like 50. Well, this time he had less competition and he did slightly better. He got a 7th place this time out of a class size of 19. I showed him again as an Andalusian, just since he did pretty well as an Andalusian from the last show, so there you go. Titus is still in the ribbons. He's my boy now. It's my boy Titus. That's how I told my mom, like, there's my boy Titus right there on my shelves. And she's like, you're weird. Anyways, moving on. Next we have Unrealistic Color class, and I entered Gemini, who was in a class size of 28 and also took home a 7th place, so pretty happy about that. Next we have Domestic Animal, which I entered my little goat, Button, and she was in a class size of 28 and took home a 4th place, so, and the judge was like, oh my word, this goat is so cute. I'm like, yeah, cute little goat. I showed her as a pygmy goat. Next we have the custom class, which I entered Admiral. He was in a class size of 24. She also had a problem with his documentation not being exactly right. So that's probably why he didn't do super well. But yeah, anyways. Next we have the Realistic Scene, which I entered Magic in, and he did not place out of a size of 14. Which is funny because this is the scene that won the diorama contest from, I think, 2018 is when I won the diorama contest, the Offshore the Races one. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I understand why he didn't, because he's kind of scratched up and like beat up. He's one of my beat up models, but the tack is kind of made onto him. Like, the saddle doesn't come off. Everything else will come off, but the saddle does not come off. So I understand why he didn't place well, just because he's all scratched up. So next is the English performance. I entered Flint as doing eventing the cross-country division. Out of 10 horses, he placed 7th. So not a loser, I guess. He didn't lose. But yeah. Next we have Country Song, or Banjo, and he ended up placing 4th out of 8 horses. I entered him as a Western Pleasure horse, and I got some good comments about him. She said it was very accurate, like, depiction. She just said that the footing is too deep, which I agree with. That's probably why a lot of my horses also did do super well, like the stalemates, is probably because you couldn't see their hooves. So I'll have to fix that for next time. And then we have other performance, which I entered Blaze. I entered him as a sulky racing. And he placed 3rd out of 8. And the judge did say that if he had a check, I guess at least that's what I know of it as, that goes from the bridle and like down to the, I don't know how to explain it, but it's missing a piece of the harness, and he didn't have a number. So that's one of the things I can fix for next time. Just make sure he has a number, and yeah. So had to fix that for next time. But oh, I skipped a class. Let's go back a bit. There was scene Unrealistic, which was right after Realistic Scene. I actually ended up finding a photo from a long time ago, because I don't have this diorama anymore, but it's like the first ever diorama I made from the first Breyerfest I went to in 2017. And I know I took a picture of it, so I was just like, I need to find this picture because I don't have this diorama anymore. So I went through all my really old photos saved on a flash drive for my laptop, because I like put photos onto a flash drive just so that it's not hogging up my computer space. And I went back and found an old photo, and I cropped it down a bit so it's not like, because it wasn't like a great photo, and I'm like, yeah, I'm entering it in Unrealistic Scene, doing it. And ended up taking 6th place out of 8, so I thought that was kind of funny. And the judge was funny, too, the judge comments for that. And they were very fair comments, just like, it's not really cropped or photoed exactly right. And like, yeah, that's fair. Anyways, now we're down to our last two classes that I entered, the costume classes. So 57 was a costume class that the costume had to be Breyer made. So I ended up entering Thunder, who was in a class size of 10, and he ended up taking home first place. He was shown in this attire here. I showed him as a parade horse, and then I had like a little explanation about what parade horse actually is, because it's not like horses in a parade, it's like an actual like class is parade horse. So that's what he was shown as. And then next is a class size of 4, which is honestly probably the smallest class size of all the classes that I entered anyway. And I entered Desi. He was also someone I made for 2017 Breyerfest for the diorama thing. But I'm like, I'm just gonna enter him because he's just sitting on my shelf all fancy in his stack, and he ended up taking first place in the entrant made costume class. So I'm really happy that these two guys did so well, and that means I'm in the running for a divisional champion. Not gonna say I'm gonna get it. It's totally open-ended whether I get it or not. They will announce it during Breyerfest weekend. All the divisional champions, the overall champions, and overall reserve champions. So that's going to happen during Breyerfest weekend. So we only know the placings, right, like for each class, but we don't know divisional or anything yet. So you'll have to stay tuned for Breyerfest to see if that happens. So out of my 49 horses, about 22 horses actually placed somewhere in the ribbons, either being honorable mention or above. So that's about 45% of my horses placed somewhere. And I think that's a good ratio, especially from last show where, you know, it was like 0.1% of my horses placed. So I think it was a great experience, and I totally recommend, if you're new to horse showing, that you enter an adult novice show, because it's so much more helpful than just throwing yourself into the open show. Because you don't really learn a whole lot in the open show, you just feel bad that like, wow, my horses did awful and I thought the photos were pretty good. Because this just gives you so much more constructive feedback to like make your entrance better, so that when you do move on to the open show, you're going to be more competitive. So this is like a really great way to get your feet wet. I totally recommend it. Everyone was super nice. It was a lot easier because it was a lot of more unexperienced, you're up against more unexperienced people as well. So you're not like out there with the people that have been showing for years and they have the scenes in the background and, you know, it's just over the top. But this was a nice, easy way to like kind of learn more about model horse showing and, you know, actually learn what you're doing and what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will probably get some more videos out eventually, but I'm happy that I got to sit down and do this for you guys, and yeah, bye!